Welcome. So let's begin today. Close the eyes for a moment. And just notice what's here. And then notice how you notice. So there's a difference between noticing and thinking. So noticing is effortless. It's just happening. The thinking is unnecessary effort. So don't try to stop the thinking. Don't try and exert more effort to counter the existing effort, but just notice, just see that the thinking requires effort, but that the noticing is effortless. So this, or we could just say awareness. So you're just aware it's effortless. And in this effortless awareness, all of these seemingly different objects of awareness are arising. So we might call some of them sensation, we might call some of them thought, we might call some of them image, sound, all these different things seemingly happening. And now see that in one instant right now, just for this one instant, don't make any effort, just for an instant. So it may be that half a second later, there's effort being made, but just for one instant, don't make any effort. And notice that in this one instant, maybe you have to repeat it so that it becomes clearer, but you can see in this one instant that there's simply this happening. And all of the idea about what it is and whose it is and what it means and what's needed and where it's going and where it's come from and all of that, that's all actually just part of what's happening. The actuality is just that all of this is happening. So again, just notice. You can notice that there's sound, sensation, maybe some mental imagery, thought. And then notice that if you just don't make any effort for just one instant, so you just let go, it's like you just take your hands off of the steering wheel for one instant. That's it. It's not about you have to maintain anything, but just for one instant, you just stop making the effort, stop gripping just for this one moment. It could be even just a fraction of a second. It's okay. But you see in this one instant that everything is happening and that it's all just happening equally, that nothing stands out as more important or less important or anything like that. It's just happening. And in this one instant, actually, without making any effort, you can't even say really what any of it is, or even that it is. It's all a bit strange, but you can see this just in this one instant if you just let go. And then you can notice that all the ideas about what this is and whose it is and who needs to do what and what needs to be done and why it needs to be done and what happened and what will happen and what needs to be protected and all the rest of it. It's simply more of what's happening. That's it. It's just happening. It's not any more important or less important or more or less significant than anything else. It's just part of the collage of what's happening. Now, if you wish to open the eyes, do so slowly, just so that you don't introduce any kind of shock or suddenness. If you wish to keep the eyes closed, that's fine too. So this one instant, and then you see, what is it that is outside of this one instant actually? So is there anything that you can find that's outside of this instant? I'm not talking conceptually. I'm asking you and inviting you to look right now directly. Just see directly, looking innocently and simply in your own direct experience. Just see, is there anything outside of this one instant right now? Not the instant from before, because that's just another idea, right? You can see that, hopefully. But just right now, you can see that there's just this instant. And you see, is there anything outside of this? So perhaps you can recognize when you really look sincerely that there's nothing happening outside of this one instant. This is all there is. You can really see that. It's strange perhaps because we're so accustomed to believing the mind and everything, the narrative of the mind. The mind has this whole story about the past and the future and what's happened and what needs to be done and how it's going to turn out. And all of this is where we give so much of our attention. But in this one instant, when we look sincerely, so again, I'm just inviting you just to look. And anybody, it's available to everybody. Anybody can do it. It doesn't require any kind of special powers beyond what are available to you, because just by virtue of the fact that you are, it's available to you. So there's no other qualifications. Just the fact that you are is enough. And you can just look right now and see it's so obvious and simple that there's only this. So what else can you find? Can you find the past? Where is that? Can you get it? Can you do something with it? Can you show it to me? And same with the future. So all of this idea about something in time is actually just an idea. The direct reality, perceivable innocently right now to anyone who's willing to look, just drop the armor for one instant, just for half a second. And I'm not saying that this is, then it's sustained. I'm not saying that the glimpse becomes an all-pervading eternal perception. What I'm saying is that in this one instant, we have to start where we are. So we just take the steps that are here in front of us. So right now, we can just look right now. And we can see in this one instant, just for half a second, that it's true, that there is nothing outside of this. So now take a look and see what your usual mode of functioning is. So you can just observe. You know it. It's an interesting thing. You don't have to think about it. You just know it. It's just there. It just happens just through the intention. You become aware. So just have the intention to be aware of your usual way, and there it is. You see, here's my usual way. My usual way is what? I think about it. I worry about it. I plan. I scheme. Try to figure it out. I Google. So this is the usual way, and notice that requires effort. So this may not be obvious at first. Many of you will be able to see it because I've invited you to see it many times, so you've started to see it. But if you don't see it right away, don't worry. You just keep looking innocently, and you'll see that actually it does require effort. How can you know that's true? Well, you can test it. What if you just don't make the effort? You see? So you find out, you have to observe and notice the effort, and then maybe you're not entirely certain. So you have to test it out, put it to the test by letting go of the effort for just, again, for half an instant, just for one split second, you let go of the effort. So what's happening? Well, just do that much. Maybe you have to repeat it a couple of times. You just let go of the effort, and then you notice, oh, I'm making the effort again. And then that's okay. You just let go of that effort. Now, here it's important to understand that letting go of effort cannot be done in the usual way. So you can't make more effort to get rid of the effort. So we're in the habit of making effort. And if you're trying to get rid of the effort or let go of the effort by making more effort, then that's not the right way. So the correct way is actually, it's like I described, like you take your hands off the steering wheel. It's to release the effort. So it's a surrender of the effort. So this is very, very, very challenging at first because it's new and we don't have we haven't cultivated that skill. So it's like anything that we're learning. It's not like, this is often made out to be very esoteric, but it's only esoteric which means hidden, because we don't look, you see, and because it's not commonly known and is not commonly pointed out. But it's actually, there's no reason why it has to remain hidden. It's only through our own ignorance and fear and discomfort. So it's like any new skill. At first we have zero competence, and that provokes in us all of the conditioning that maintains the status quo. It's the thing that says, oh, this is sour grapes, so don't bother. So you just notice whatever the resistance is, whatever it is that works to maintain the status quo. So there might be frustration, there might be irritation, there might be impatience, there might be kind of could manifest as so many different things, but you just notice whatever it is. And it's good news, because what that means is the learning process is taking place. So something new is entering. There's something new that is becoming more and more accessible. So all that we have to do, and this is, you see, it's true. You know this because it's true in anything that you've taken on a new learning. If you insist and demand at first that it should all be, you should have complete mastery from the get-go, then you will give up. It's not sustainable. It'll be too unpleasant. So you have to be willing to see that this is like anything else, that you have to be patient with it, and that the learning process is somewhat delicate in the sense that if you use too much force, or really any force, if you use force, you're pushing away the learning, because the force is more effort. So it's contracting the armor. So then nothing new can come in. But in order for that newness to enter, we have to be willing to soften. We have to open. And that's what allows the learning to take place. Because what is the process of learning? The process of learning is something new entering. And so we have to be, it's like the Buddhist concept of emptying the bowl. You come with a full bowl, there's nothing new that can come in. So it's difficult for us because we know so much and we are very successful in many ways. Now, you may or may not agree with that statement, but it's true because we're all here. We've all succeeded to this point where many have not. I mean, that's pretty plainly obvious, right? That there are many who have not succeeded to this point, in the sense that they've checked out. They're not here. They couldn't do it. So that you are here means that you have there's tremendous amount of success, actually. In the big picture, it's a very enormous amount of success. We're very hard on ourselves, so we don't usually see it that way. We're very focused on what we perceive as not successful. But there's this enormous amount of success. So we have all of these strategies and habits that have gotten us to this point of success, but there we go. So it can't get us to the next step. The way that we have done it can't get us to the next step. So we have to be willing to surrender so that we can be lifted to the next step. So it's actually very good news, because you see how much discomfort and unhappiness comes out of all of this compulsive effort, right? I mean, you just, again, right now, remember, it's always an invitation to look for yourself. So look now and see all of this effort that you're so accustomed to. It's only yielded unhappiness and dissatisfaction. I mean, apart from the success, but the success was really in the past now. So tremendous amount of success, but it's in the past. So it doesn't do us any good because that doesn't exist here. So now we keep trying to use all of that we've learned from the past here where it doesn't apply. It's like we're beating our head against the wall and it's painful, but we don't know what else to do. Why? Well, you look and see, it's pretty obvious, right? You just look right now, innocently. Why do I keep on, you just ask yourself this question, why do I keep smacking my head against the wall, trying desperately to do something that doesn't work? And if it's not clear right away, then you can look at it in a different way. Just imagine for a moment that you don't do what you usually do. Just imagine for a moment that you don't make all this effort. Or you could, for an instant right now, just not make the effort. My cat is, I don't know if you can hear that. She's doing something up there. For this one instant, don't make any effort, and then you see what happens. So you have to be really observant. What happens if I don't make any effort and I continue not to make any effort? What is it that you have to really watch? What is it that fuels this compulsion to, again, exert the effort? And you could even notice it, just for example, in a very simple way, in case it's not obvious already, just to break it down even more simply and more practically, you could just find somewhere in your body that you habitually hold tension. So maybe you're clenching your jaw, or maybe you hold your throat closed, or maybe your abdomen is tight, or whatever may be the case. Okay, you just notice and just choose one, and then release that, soften that, not with force, but just through awareness. You become aware of how you make the effort and you soften it. And don't worry about perfection. It's not about achieving some perfection. It's just about, to whatever degree is possible, you soften that, and then just watch carefully and notice, what is it? What happens? What drives the compulsion that results in you, again, making that effort? You'll see it happens. You release, and then you tense it up again. So you have to watch carefully. I don't want to give it away too quickly. So just look. We'll take a moment just to observe. You just release, surrender something, anything. It could be mental, psychological, emotional, physiological, however, whatever works for you. You just surrender and release and soften one thing to the degree that's possible. That might be 5%, 1%. Just to the degree that's possible. And then watch carefully and see what it is that fuels the rearmoring. So that should be enough time, I would think. If not, then you're maybe more advanced than me. So, I mean, if you can maintain that softening for that long, then you're probably more advanced than me. So let's so let's just look together and see, and I'll tell you what I see. What I see is that it's wide open, and this wide openness, which is filled with infinite potential, begins to dissolve the habit of me, how I understand myself and conceive of myself. And this is perceived as a threat. And so there's a sense of discomfort or fear. And that overwhelms the system. And then there's a recontraction, rearmoring. So I'll suggest we're afraid. And what are we afraid of? Well, I've already described it, but look again for yourself right now. Just see. For one instant, let go. Just don't make any effort. And see what's here. Is what's here a problem? Can't be. There's no one separate here for there to be, for there to be a problem, there has to be two. It has to be the one who's experiencing the problem and the problem. But here, you look and see, there's not two. There's only this. It's just this wide openness. There's no other. There can't be a problem. There's just this. It's so perfect. It's pristine. So here is perfection, totality. Nothing is needed. It's eternal, infinite. It's timeless. We see that. We see here, this instant right now. There's no past or future. There's just this. All notions of past and future arise in this, but this is not bound by past and future. This is eternal. It's infinite, boundless. And there's not two. There's only this. So we catch a glimpse of this here, and we can tell the truth, which is, I am this. This should be obvious because I am here, right? You just look for one instant, don't make any effort, and you see, are you still here? Pretty obvious, right? I'm here. But then I'm here, but nothing else is here. It's just for this one instant. Of course, the next second, everything seems to be here. But for the one instant, when you're not making any effort, there's nothing here, but I am here. So I am this. It's obvious. So this is a bit strange, isn't it? Here we discover in this one instant, this is the total fulfillment of everything that we want. Here we have, ultimate safety, perfection, wholeness, contentment, fulfillment, ease, clarity. But then we discover in the next instant, it seems like this fear and this contraction. So this fear, now I've described it based on what I perceive. You, of course, have to look and see for yourself. So just what I say doesn't have a tremendous amount of value for you. It's only pointing so that you can look for yourself. But you can perhaps see what I'm pointing to, that in this one instant, when there's no effort, there's only this, it's perfection, it's the completion, there's nothing needed. And then it seems like, oh, there's a problem, and there's this fear, and there's this contraction, grasping. How am I going to solve my problem? What am I going to do? So this seems strange. Seems strange to me, at least. Now, if we think about it, of course, we think, well, that shouldn't be, that's wrong. But that doesn't do us any good, does it? Because I'm sure we've all done that. It's not fair. It's not fair doesn't help us in any way. So we can just be willing to learn something from this glimpse. So we have a glimpse. It reveals something to us. So there's an entering of truth. There's an entering of newness. There's an entering of light. And then what happens is that there's this overlay of the conditioning, and if we get involved in trying to figure out why that is, it's not a good direction. It just leads us into spiral of frustration. So let's not get caught up in that. Instead, let's just observe what is. Rather than getting hung up on our judgments about what should be, let's just observe what is. So we can notice, okay, there's this glimpse of freedom, wholeness that's here in an instant when I make no effort. And then there's a seeming appearance of contraction, problem, frustration, the overlay of the conditioning, what seems to be very familiar. So let's just observe that. That's what's happening. So now, of course, we could, as I've said, we could bemoan this reappearance or appearance of the conditioning, the seeming separation and problems and limitation and so forth. We could do that, but it's not helpful. We know that because we've done that. So let's just all abandon that now. Could we do that? Could we just make that commitment here as a group to ourselves and to one another that from now on, I abandon all useless attention on the same patterns of thought that have never yielded any positive results, no matter how compelling they seem to be, no matter how seductive, no matter how familiar. I just refuse to do it because I'm intelligent and I can recognize that it never works, it never will work, and it's only going to result in more suffering. So I won't do that anymore. So now what's happening is we're engaged in the learning process. So rather than the reappearance of the conditioning being a bad thing, we can see it as a part of the learning process. So good news. Let's not be so quick to throw in the towel and say everything is bad. Let's just be open to what is and trust that there is an intelligence that's greater than our conditioned notion of what intelligence is, which is not that intelligent. It's just a collection of dead ideas. So here we can just be surrendered and open to the learning, even as this conditioning appears. Now, something miraculous starts to happen as we do this, because what is occurring is that, you see, all of the conditioning is composed of the past and future. The conditioning is not now. Right now, you see, the instant you really are attentive to now, there's a complete disappearance of all of that. That's what's happening. When we're really attentive to now, we're not making any effort, because the effort is all involved in going to the graveyard of these ideas of the past and trying to overlay them. And what is this? What does it mean? What am I going to do about it? What am I going to do with it? But when we don't make that effort, then we're just here in this vast infinity of now. So this conditioning is composed only of the past and future, which are only ideas. We've seen that, hopefully. Hopefully you've seen that. If not, look again, just see that the past and future are only ideas. That's all they are. You have to look and see. It's not, I'm not inviting you to take that idea on as a new belief. That's not the way. The way is to look and see what's being pointed to see right now, look directly at your own experience and see, where is the past right now? Does the past exist independently of now? No, obviously not. You can't locate it. You can't go there. You can't enter it. But then we could say, well, there is no past, but that's a little bit, it's true and it's not true. So let's look at it more skillfully and let's see, well, there is a past, but the past is just not what we thought it was. It's not something that exists independently. Rather, it's just an idea. That's where you can see it right now. Where is the past? Anything of the past, where does that exist? It exists only as an idea. It only exists as, or we could say an idea or an impression, an image, but it's some um, phenomena that is arising presently. So the conditioning exists only as these ideas of the past and future. No, this is very, very powerful, actually. So don't be quick to dismiss it or think that you've got it, because then you don't get the benefit of it. So really allow it to open you and keep you opening, and you'll see more and more what's happening. That for one instant, make no effort. So make no effort doesn't mean that everything has to become comfortable and everything has to disappear and everything has to be in the way that you think that would be. Rather, it just means that you just really become very attentive to now what's happening, and you, for one instant, are not indulging the habit that is the momentum of the conditioning. See, that's what's happening, is this conditioning, as I pointed out, is just the ideas of the past and the future. It has no independent reality, but because it's not uh, independently real, it can't offer any kind of sense of reality. So the way that it gets that sense of reality is that it uses momentum to cause us to leap over and ignore what's here. Just past, future, past, future, past, future. There's constantly past, future, past, future. But for an instant, don't make the effort to look to past or future. No looking to ideas. You're just still for 1/2 second. So even if there's still movement happening, even if there's still the residual kind of dizziness of all of that compulsive effort, for one instant, it's not indulged, and there's this opening, and there's a recognition, if you just notice, that this now is the true independent reality. So you see what's happening in this one true independent reality, then all of these ideas of past and future are arising. And you see that these ideas, this whole narrative of past and future, it gives the meaning to whatever other phenomena are also arising. So there's sensation, image, all of these phenomena arising. And it's the narrative that gives meaning to it. And out of habit, we just accept that that is true. But right now, again, for an instant, make no effort, and you see what's here. There is no past or future here. There's just this, and there's no problem here, and there's nothing needed here. This is already complete, and I am this. So this is glimpsed for just an instant. You have to look. You have to be willing just to stop for just a moment. And then, of course, if you keep looking to the mind says, well, I'm not so sure. The mind keeps on doubting. So stop looking back to the mind. Trust in the direct knowing. You know it. It's obvious. You don't have to look to the mind. Do you exist? You know you exist without having to consult the mind. The mind can doubt it. The mind is insane in that way. The mind can say, well, I'm not so sure. But intuitively, it's just plainly obvious. Of course I exist. So existence is primary. The existence doesn't depend on any conditioning or any notion or idea. So we can really learn to trust this direct knowing without consulting the mind. This is very important. So we have a glimpse. The glimpse is outside of the mind. The mind is, for one split second, it's silent. So the seeing is not happening in mind. So don't look to the mind again then for the answer. If there's direct seeing in the silence of the mind, I am, when the mind is silent, then why am I going to look to the mind to give me more answers about who I am? It's foolish. So don't do that, because if you do that, you just get yourself stuck in this vicious cycle. So you just, for an instant, just make no effort and you have a glimpse. I am. And then there's this emergence of the all the conditioning. And here we're not going to engage in the usual way, which is to think about it a lot and try and solve some imagined problem and to judge that this shouldn't be and why isn't anything working and all of that. No, we're just going to see in the light of this pure awareness that I am, that all of this is arising. So now it's seen differently. And it's unfamiliar at first. So that's fine. If you are thinking, I don't know how to do this, this is hard, and I'm not sure I'm doing it right. Great. It's like, as I've pointed out, it's like any learning. If you're learning something new, of course you don't know at first. And of course you're going to feel incompetent because you are incompetent. That's the nature of all learning. So it's fine. Don't insist that you should have mastery, because who does? Not me. So you just, it's a process of opening to the process of learning. So you just are willing to make no effort, and then you have a glimpse. I am. And you notice I am is so complete. It's so infinite. There's no problem. It's complete satisfaction and contentment. Now there's the emergence of the conditioning. So whatever the images, thoughts, memories, sensations, whatever, all of that. But now we're seeing it in the light of I am. So there's a newness in the seeing. At first, you aren't going to know what that means. If you're trying to understand that with the mind, you won't know what that means. I can't tell you, because that's not what's happening. Uh, it's a seeing, again, that's beyond the mind. It's the direct seeing, but it's known directly. You know that I am here, I am aware, I am seeing. Not the thoughts I am aware, I am seeing, but the direct experience. I am aware, I am seeing. I am aware, I am seeing is wide open. It's not contracted into a particular position or judgment or valuation. It's just wide open. So we can start to see the conditioning in this new open way, in the light of this. Now, as I've said, this is very powerful. And so you can, and some of you will already, you're already noticing it. Some of you are not, and that's normal. But let me point it out, just connect some of the dots. So what have we seen? We've seen I am, that I am eternal, timeless, and just in this one instant of making no effort. Again, remember, this is not about using force to try and overlay and then sustain some new thing. This is about opening to newness and allowing that to blossom. So just for half a second, that's enough. I promise you, we have to start where we are. So for half a second, you just make no effort. And the glimpse is very small then. So then the doubts are more. But that's okay. That's where you are. That's what it is. What are you going to do about that? You can't make the mistake of trying to use force because it will not work out well. So you have to be gentle. You just make no effort. There's a glimpse, and then you notice, okay, the fear surges, the contraction occurs. Now here's the emergence of the conditioning, but here's where there's now an element of choice that there was not before. Before you didn't have this one instant of this glimpse of wide openness introduces this possibility of this choice. And here you have to just slow everything down and exercise the choice. And it's this, that just don't leap into the identification with what's happening. So just continue to remain watchful, open, aware, without jumping into all of the analysis and judgment and all of the rest of it. And so as this happens, you're just seeing what's all the conditioning in this light of wide open awareness. And you'll, again, to connect the dots, what we've seen is this: I am this in this one instant. And also here, there is no past or future. This is timeless, eternal. This is now, and it's infinite. So this is glimpsed directly in this one instant of no effort. You can just simply notice. It's just obvious that there is no boundary here. There is no time here. And then you see that time exists in the conditioning. The conditioning consists of ideas of past and future, and that past and future are just these ideas. That past and future don't have an independent existence. Don't think about it, because you'll get yourself all tied up in knots, but it's just obvious you just allow yourself to see it. Here it is. You don't have to think about it. You just see it. And again, this is a learning process. So we're learning how to trust in this direct seeing rather than in our habit of the mind. So I'm not suggesting the mind is bad, that we have to get rid of the mind or anything like that. It serves its purpose and its function, but it has limitations, and if we're trying to use it for what it cannot do, then it will be miserable. So we're learning to trust in that intelligence that is not the mind to do its function, which we have previously demanded that the mind do, but the mind can't do. So we just directly see that it's obvious that all past and future are just ideas in the conditioning arising presently. So now we're connecting the dots. You see that what binds you? Say, well, the conditioning binds me. But look again, now you've seen something new. What binds you? It can't be. The conditioning can't bind you. How could it? The conditioning is arising in you. How could it bind you? So it's subtle, easy to overlook. And it's very challenging to the status quo. So a lot of the defenses will be raised. And the tendency is to just completely dismiss this as irrelevant or insignificant or stupid or trivial or whatever else. But don't make that mistake. Just look and see that it's true, that you can see it for yourself. You can just see the truth, which is in this instant right now, I am complete and I am boundless. Nothing can bind me. There is no other. There is nothing separate. There's nothing independent or external. So now you observe the conditioning arises. The conditioning arises where? In the awareness that you are. You're aware of it. It doesn't exist independent of the awareness that you are. It can't bind you. The conditioning exists only of ideas of past and future, but you are independent of time. You exist outside of time. Time exists in you. Now, as I say, this is going to raise a lot of defenses because this undoes everything if we allow it. So just be aware of the defenses. You might not think of them as defenses, but just be aware of them. You'll see whatever they are. So many possibilities. Boredom, zoning out, tiredness, numbness, impatience, arrogance, anger, discouragement, shame, humiliation, on and on. So just be aware of them, and you don't need to do anything about them. You don't need to fight them. You just notice them. That's all. So you see what's happening is in the seeing of whatever it is that's happening, whatever conditioning is arising in the light of consciousness, it's seen correctly. If it's seen incorrectly, which is the habit, then it just becomes its own vicious cycle. It just continues. It's like an eddy or something like that. But when it's seen in the larger context, when it's seen properly, then it's seen as just some conditioning that doesn't actually apply to me. It can't bind me. It doesn't have any power over me. And that it's only within itself that if we get involved in it, if we engage at that level, then we're already approaching it in a distorted way. And so we have the wrong understanding of ourselves. We start to perceive ourselves as bound by this conditioning, and now we're fighting against the conditioning. We're trying to change it. And we perceive that I'm bound by the past because these things happened. But when seen correctly, seen accurately, truthfully, right now, you can just for one instant make no effort, and then you see all of this is simply happening now, and it doesn't bind me. It doesn't even apply to me. It doesn't touch me. So you just simply let it come and go. And what it is that is more truthful begins to emerge with greater clarity, which is this pure light. I don't know what else to call it. It's just a pure light of awareness or consciousness. It's simply is. And it becomes much more attractive than all of the usual stuff that we do. So we've covered a lot today. I'll try to just wrap it up by pointing out again that here this pure light is complete, and uh, it is ultimately satisfying, and it is who I am already. It's effortless. Nothing needs to be done to attain it. It's here. It's just glimpsed and known in this instant of no effort. So then we just have to see what happens. We're just watching and seeing that there's a habit of this contraction, the fear, and then we indulge with the identification, and then we are back into this vicious cycle of trying to figure it out. And all we need to do, honestly, is just be willing to just exercise this newfound choice, which is just don't do that. It's all that's necessary is just be aware, and then don't indulge that compulsion to get involved in it, to get involved in the wrong idea of yourself, and that you need to do something about all these problems. So, and it will apply this practically. I mean, we have been applying it practically because this whole exploration, as long as you're following along sincerely, is very practical. It's producing this change. But we can also now explore it in the context of what I've been calling the unconditional peace inquiry. So we can just, for an instant, make no effort. And in this one instant, you notice unconditional peace. There's no other, there's no war, there's no possibility of war, there's just this. And in the light of this awareness, this wide open awareness, imagine now this unconditional peace expressing in your body, in your mind, and in your relationships. And just notice the tendency or the habit to contract or armor, and instead exercise the choice just to continue to see. So even if the contraction and the armoring happens, just see it, just notice it, and notice whatever else arises as you're provoking by imagining this possibility of unconditional peace expressing through your body and your mind and your relationships. You just see that habit of contracting and armoring, and you see what other phenomena are co-arising with that. That's all. You see the images, the sensations, the memories, the thoughts, etc. So just to make it clear, for example, there might be a thought. This is, I don't even know where to begin. I don't think peace is possible. My life is a disaster, something like that. And you just notice, okay, there's that thought, and you notice that co-arising is this compulsion to contract, which is the tendency to grasp or cling or identify. And you just see it. You don't make any effort to try and stop it. Just don't make any effort any which way. Don't make the effort to perpetuate it. Don't make the effort to try and stop it. Don't do anything, just see. And as this happens, that identification, that habit begins to dissolve. That's all, because you're seeing it. So one more time, just completely drop all effort for one instant and just notice in this one instant that I am, and I am unconditional peace. There is no other, there is no separation. There's just this, and I am. And then imagine this unconditional peace expressing through your body and your mind and your relationships. And just notice whatever that provokes, whatever images, thoughts, beliefs, sensations, memories, sounds, whatever. And just notice the tendency to try and do something, protect or figure out, or whatever may be the case, and just see it. Don't indulge it. So, as I've pointed out, the our tendency is to dismiss or trivialize something that is actually very effective if we don't already understand it or have proficiency. So just be aware. Just be aware if you have any sense or idea or habit of thinking, oh, this doesn't work, or it's not working for me, or I'm not doing it right, or I need to do more. And just see that all of that is actually part of the process. If you just allow it and see it without indulging it, without believing it, without grasping it, without clinging to it, or trying to flinch or protect yourself or any of those sorts of things, it's being dissolved and released, and this pure light is blossoming. So some of you may start to have a sense of this pure light actually here. You can actually sense it, that it seems to replace these areas where these old habits of negativity and limitation were, but as they're seen in this new way, they start to dissolve and lighten, and they're replaced by this blossoming pure light. So you may actually start to perceive that or sense that. And if so, you might notice that it feels very wonderful. And so you just allow that. It's very good. So thank you as always for joining me. And for those who are here live, we'll stay on for the Q&A. So let me end this recording.